Shop inflation hit record highs again this morning, with sugar-based products leading the rise. And pressure is on for the Bank of England governor to get a hold of the UK economy. But Andrew Bailey blames early retirement for high interest rates and rising inflation.
And he's just been joined by senior officials at the Treasury Committee. He's been giving evidence. Now to discuss it all is there someone who I think knows a lot more about economics than Andrew Bailey, our very own business and economics editor, Liam Halligan.
That does me no favours.
Yeah, what does he mean it's early retirement causing inflation and high interest rates?
Well, this was there are various Andrew Bailey speeches going on. It's a bit of an Andrew Bailey PR onslaught. Yesterday he gave a speech at the London School of Economics in which he said that because the workforce has shrunk, because a lot of people between age 50 and 60 haven't returned to work after lockdown, the workforce has shrunk, he said, by about 130,000 people. It's not very much. It's like less than half of 1% of the workforce. But he's saying that's enough to have led to labour shortages, which has pushed up inflation. This is part of a trend some people are spotting where Andrew Bailey likes to
blame everybody else.
Blame a sort of not me gov economics. So last week he was saying, oh, it's all companies' fault that inflation's happening because they keep putting their prices up. But if you're a company and the cost of all your inputs has gone up and you don't put your prices up, then you're going to go bust. Having said that, he has got a point. Some companies have been what we call price gouging, taking advantage of an inflationary environment. And it is true that the labour force is tighter. And what we heard from him this morning was the Treasury Select Committee. This is a cross-party committee of MPs. And in today's intervention, Andrew Bailey was trying to reassure the public specifically, not so much about inflation, we'll come back to that, Dawn, but about the banking crisis. We've seen Silicon Valley Bank collapse in the US. That's the biggest bank failure in America since Lehman Brothers in 2008. And of course, we saw Credit Suisse collapse into the arms of its bigger rival UBS in Switzerland. You know, Credit Suisse, one of the top 30 banks in the world. So let's just have a little listen to Andrew Bailey as he tried to reassure MPs in the Commons this morning, and indeed us, that it's all going to be fine.
I don't think that any of them, and we've said this, that any of these features cause stress in the UK banking system. I don't think we are at all in the place we were in 2007-8. We're in a very different place to then. But we have to be very vigilant. So if I give you the answer, I don't think there's a problem going forwards. I do not want to give you for a moment the idea that we are not very vigilant, because we are. We are in a period of very heightened, frankly, tension and alertness, and we will go on being vigilant.
And Liam, grocery price, food price inflation, pretty grim.
Yeah, he's saying this against the backdrop of inflation. Just on what he said about banking there, Mandy Rice-Davies, he would say that, wouldn't he? He's talking about alertness and vigilance, because a lot of people think Andrew Bailey and the Bank of England, for months and months and months, wouldn't raise interest rates. Too slow. That inflation was over double its target, and they were still saying it's transitory. Don't worry about it. And on inflation, we saw last week, of course, that inflation went up. It went up to 10.4% in February. We thought it was going to come down. And we've had kind of corroboration of that with some private sector numbers. There's a consultancy called Kantor, and they survey particularly the price of food in supermarkets. And we've got some numbers from them out this morning. And Kantor show that in March 2023, so this month that's just ending, food prices were up 17.5% year on year. That's compared to March 2022.
That's a lot.
And that's a lot higher than overall inflation, which was up by 10.4% in February, as I said. Annual food shopping bill for the average family, because of inflation, says Kantor, is £837 more a year. Really sizable chunk. Bang goes your holiday, right? A lot of money. And it's eggs, milk and cheese that are up most sharply. Look, I actually reckon that this February and March food price inflation is a bit of a blip. I do think inflation is going to come down towards the end of the year. I do think Rishi Sunak's going
to come down to 2.9%.
Yeah, I do think it's going to come down at least below 4% from double digits now. But if you think about it, it was in February, March last year that food prices really spiked, because you had that war in Ukraine suddenly coming onto everyone's radar. Suddenly everyone realised, crikey, the Russians and the Ukrainians, they produce a lot of grain, don't they? And who'd have thunk it? Oh, open a history book and you'll have known. So once that food price spike from last year comes out of the numbers, I do think these numbers will come down. But look, this is all about prices not going up as fast as they were. That's what happens when inflation ends. It's not about prices actually falling or going back to where they were this time last year. So this cost of living squeeze will continue.
Liam Halligan.
Yeah.
I told you he knows more than the government.
Well, actually, all us old folk now need to get back to work, obviously pretty urgently, otherwise we won't be able to buy food, will we?
No, exactly.